Right. Okay. Hope everybody is popped back and rejoined, refreshed with a filled cup, and ready for our second half. So we've got 4 short talks in the second half. Hopefully, over the next 40 minutes, you'll be hearing from Jess Turley, who did her master's project investigating some of our data on porpoises and dolphins. And then we've got Francesco, who's joining us from Celtic Sea Power, will be updating us on their research and their Celtic array, acoustic array. And we've got Sarah from Dolphin Zone, who are talking about her Common Dolphin ID project. And then myself going last. Perhaps shouldn't be finishing with strandings because that seems a bit of a low point to be leaving on. But that's our running system for the second half. So hopefully everyone back. Jess, are you there and ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Great. Do you want me to share the PowerPoint or do you want to do it yourself?
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Okay. I can do. Hold on. Is there any video? Or there's no video, is there? It's just
No, it's just the
yeah.
slides.
Okay. For some reason, Teams isn't playing ball with me, so I'm having to share my whole screen, which means again I can't monitor the chat or anything while that's going on. So if Dan, I hope you're still there and you can still be on chat monitoring duty, that would be really handy. Hold on. Still got yeah. Right. Over to you,
Perfect.
Jess.
So, hi, my name's Jess, and I'm going to talk to you about my master's project, which was looking at how we can utilise citizen science projects to monitor harbour porpoise abundance and mortality in Cornish waters. Next slide, please. So, as we know, estimating marine abundance and mortality can be incredibly hard because marine animals are very elusive, which means identifying them at a species level or the actual count of how many there were, it's just incredibly hard. So we can use things like boat and aerial surveys, which give us a much clearer idea. These are incredibly expensive and are often out of reach for many of the organisations that need them, such as charities. So there can also be behavioural biases with these from noise and disturbance. And mortality also has barriers such as quotas or post-mortems and changing climates, which can often bring a disproportionate amount of animals to shore in things like winter weather. Next slide, please. So how do we overcome this? I'm sure many of you here are volunteers for many of these citizen science projects, but Cornwall has a wealth of marine-based citizen science projects and marine tour operators who can help fill in the gaps. So the 4 that I'm going to be looking at with this are the Marine Stranding Network, Sequest, Ad Hoc Reports, and Marine Tourism Operators. Slide, please. So not only are harbour porpoise the most abundant cetaceans found in the UK waters, they are also really good indicator species, meaning they can indicate the health of our seas through their behaviour and distribution. Cornwall's rich coastal temperate waters can create really good feeding grounds for harbour porpoises, along with many other animals. However, because they are so rich, harbour porpoises are very at risk of anthropogenic factors and other risks like bycatch and disturbance. Next slide, please. So my first aim is to explore the trends in harbour porpoise abundance in Cornish waters, as shown by citizen science projects. So I chose to look at 10 years of data from 2013 to 2020. And as I said, using the Sequest, Ad Hoc and Marine Tour operator data. Word of mouth generally suggested that I would see a decline in sightings. So that was my first hypothesis, that I would be seeing a decrease in sightings. Next slide, please. So my second aim was to explore the trends in harbour porpoise mortality in Cornish waters, as shown by citizen science projects. And this was using data from the Marine Stranding Network database. And within this, I was interested to look at the rates of bycatch for harbour porpoise, as every year 650,000 marine animals died due to bycatch, and I wanted to see what impact this had on our harbour porpoises. Next slide, please. So the foundations of this study were based on a previous paper by Nicole Verlinder et al. In 2022. And they looked at cetacean abundance across 30 years across the whole of Cornwall, using sequest data, ad hoc data, and data from marine tour operators. So I am then using the complementary data from the Marine Stranding Network, and this will give us a clear view to do spatial and temporal analysis, which will help me create clear conclusions for my aims. Next slide, please. So here are some graphs that show the hotspots of sightings and strandings in Cornwall of harbour porpoise. So the top left map shows the harbour porpoise hotspot sightings, and as you can see, Mounts Bay is a clear hotspot with over 25% of all sightings occurring there. On the next map, at the bottom right, we can see Mounts Bay is also a hotspot for strandings, with a secondary hotspot appearing in St Austell Bay. Next slide, please. So these are some graphs that show temporal incidence of harbour porpoise sightings and strandings. So the top left-hand graph shows the total sightings between 2013 and 2023. And although there are peaks and troughs, there is no statistical trend, which suggests that the numbers are remaining fairly stable. On the top right graph, that shows the total strandings. And again, although there are peaks and troughs, especially in 2016, there is no statistical evidence to prove that these numbers are following a trend of increasing or decreasing. So looking at the mean monthly sightings on the bottom left-hand side, it is clear that October and November are peaks for sightings, and this is backed up with all the maths. And then we can see that the winter months, January, February, and March, are particularly high for strandings. However, there is no statistical evidence that there is a lag between months of high sightings and high strandings. It's just more likely that we are seeing more strandings in the winter months due to storms. Next slide, please. So these graphs show the percentage of harbour porpoise and common dolphins out of all sightings and all strandings. And it shows that although the numbers are remaining stable, the percentage of harbour porpoises making up out of all the sightings is going down, whereas the percentage of sightings that are being reported as common dolphins are going up. And this is a strong overlap that goes past 2018. So where we think people are getting the idea that numbers are going down is probably just the influx of other marine animals, such as the common dolphins. Looking at both strandings for harbour porpoise and common dolphins, they are again remaining fairly consistent. Next slide, please. So my final set of graphs show the percentage of strandings with evidence of bycatch, looking at both harbour porpoise and common dolphins. And again, these are both quite high, and there are peaks and troughs. There was no statistical evidence to show that numbers are increasing or decreasing. And although that is good to hear that numbers of bycatch being reported for harbour porpoise and common dolphins aren't going up, it is a bit concerning that numbers aren't going down, and that suggests that current mitigation practices aren't working effectively. Next slide, please. So why is this important? We're all here today because we care about our marine world and the cetaceans that live in it. As an indicator species, a harbour porpoise can provide a vital insight into ocean health. A decline in this would also not only impact other marine animals, it could impact marine and the tourism economy, leading to financial challenges for Cornwall. So it's important to keep monitoring harbour porpoise as they are such a stable, well, currently stable population, as changes in a stable population often go unnoticed. And they say there's such an important species to monitor, we need to keep a close eye on them to make sure that we're ready to be called into action at the slightest decline. Next slide, please. So thank you all for listening. I'd like to also thank my supervisors, Bex and Brendan, for all their support during my time at uni. Also Cornwall Wildlife Trust and the team at Circus, who really helped with all the data collection and analysis. And also every volunteer who's ever seen, logged, gone out to record a dead porpoise. As without you, I could not have done this project. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Jess, for sharing that with us. And I should point out that Jess was our Sequest coordinator for last year, so she was also juggling, doing her busy master's work with helping to run Sequest practicalities between herself and Gemma last year, and did a great job. So thank you for that. Hopefully, Jess, you'll hang around maybe to the end if there's some questions about some of that for us.
Yeah, of course.
That'd be lovely. Thank you. Right. So I should then have Francesco, if you're around on the
Yes,
line.
hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Are you okay to share your screen? And
Yeah, of course.
brilliant.
I'll...
I'll let you introduce yourself because
Yeah, no worries. Hi everyone. I am Francesco. I am a postdoc at the University of Exeter. I'm up on main campus, not down in Cornwall anymore, sadly. But I work on the Subsea Soundscape project, or S3 project. It's a collaboration between the University of Exeter, Celtic Sea Power, and Ori Catapult, and it's funded by the Crown Estate. I won't go into too much detail, but the idea of S3 is to create a baseline for monitoring of underwater soundscapes and marine mammal presence in the Celtic Sea ahead of wind development in the next few years. Practically, the S3 project consists of a network of stations, 21 stations that span from Pembrokeshire down towards Cornwall. And the stations all have 3 different instruments in them that include an F-pod to detect porpoises and dolphin click trains, a broadband sound recorder that records up to 96 kilohertz in frequency on a 15-minute on, 15-minute off duty cycle, and finally a acoustic fish tag detector that we're mostly using as an anchoring and release point. As I said, there are 21 stations. These were all deployed in October for mid-October last year, and they will remain there for at least 2 years, with the idea to service them, to download the data every 4 or 6 months, at which point we're also taking eDNA samples at the same time. We have been waiting now for a month and a half for a good weather window to go and collect these stations. The weather has not been very nice to us so far. But in this time, 4 of the stations have been trolled by the many vessels that are active in the region accidentally. And out of the 4, 2 of these stations contained 3 to 5 months of data. And that's sort of the data that I'm going to present this evening, with the caveat that this is still very fresh and very much preliminary. And also I come from a different marine background. I haven't worked on cetaceans for very long, so take everything with a pinch of salt, I guess, and I'd be happy for any advice. So starting with the FPOD data, and as for context, the two places I'll be talking about are the two stations highlighted in the map. S21 is in the Celtic Deep, and we have 3 months of data, more or less, from there, from October to early January. And S5 further south here on a flatter area, and we have about 5 months of data from there. The plots here show you a timeline of daily total click train duration for dolphins and for harbor porpoises that we got from the FPODs. Dolphin here is a broad category, it's not divided by species. But what we found, interestingly, was that we had quite a lot of dolphin detections throughout the 5 months. In fact, we had almost no days with no vocalization at all. Click train, I should say. Porpoises were a bit more sporadic in their presence, but they were also detected throughout the 5 months up until March. There were also interesting differences between these two sites already. We see in the Celtic Deep, dolphin detections were pretty constant throughout the 3 months, while further south we had much higher detections up until December and then a very steep decline in the number of detections from there onwards. The trends are not as clear for porpoises, but it seems that in the south we have the reverse of the dolphin detections with more porpoises in from December onwards. We also looked at deal patterns. Perhaps as we would expect, the dolphin detections happened a lot during the night and at sunrise and sunset, while we didn't quite see a clear pattern in daily activity for the porpoises. But there were also very different patterns in the two stations for the dolphins. If we break this down by month, we see that in the Celtic Deep, that day-night pattern remains strong from October to January, while in the southern station, we find the day-night pattern starts in December and continues throughout February when we have fewer detections. But for the first 2 months, it's not the case at all. We have a lot of detections during the day too. Now, obviously, these are quite different places. It might be differences in behavior, but it might also be differences in species. And perhaps we have different species assemblage in October and November than it's later. We've tried to break down detections by species using the broadband sound data. So I applied a machine learning algorithm, the Delphin ID algorithm, trained on Northeast Atlantic data to whistle and moan detections and click detections from Palm Guard. And the model seems to suggest that most of the vocalizations come from rhesus dolphins, surprisingly. And second, third, and fourth are white-beaked, Atlantic white-sided, and bottlenose dolphins. And common dolphins, strangely, are only come in fifth, although I might have expected them to be amongst the most common. It'll be interesting to see if that changes once all the other stations are in. Or if perhaps the model needs some tweaking. But we'll continue working on these data pipelines. As I said, it's quite new data, so there's a lot to be done with it, and the project will continue for about 2 years. So we'll have quite a bit of data by the end of it, I'd imagine, and hopefully exciting new insights. I tried to cram maybe a bit too much in 5 minutes. Apologies, but I'm very happy to answer questions if there are any. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thanks so much, Francesca. It's really fascinating. It's such an extraordinary array of listening devices. I'm really excited to see what kind of results we'll start getting over the next couple of years. Hopefully,
That
you'll
should be
come back and
interesting.
tell us more next year. That would be amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Are you picking up any large whales as well? Any of the baleen whales? Was it?
We haven't run detections for them yet. It's definitely my next step to do. Exactly how, I'm not sure yet. I haven't found because with the broadband acoustic data is vast, so need some way to do it without having to listen to it, I guess. But we definitely will be looking for humpbacks, minkies, fin whales, see what we find.
Great, thank you. I leapt in with a question when I shouldn't have really. So if it's okay,
Sorry.
we'll come back to the end. No, it was me. I was getting too excited about all the acoustic data. So without further ado, I shall pass over to Sarah and let her tell us all about Dolphin Zone and the ID project, which was very exciting.
Hi. Any second now. How's that going?
Looks good.
How is my sound?
Great. Very
I'm
clear.
not known for my quiet voice. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you guys tonight. As has already been mentioned, I am working with common dolphins, and we've already heard a lot about how dramatically their situation is changing in our area and how their vulnerability is also increasing to bycatch. I'm going to add wind power to my long list of things to put into my increasingly big pot of things which might be affecting common dolphins, and be really interested in seeing how Francesco's data pans out as time goes on as well. So as we know, the common dolphins are extremely abundant in Devon and Cornwall, and that's the range of my project to start with, is from sort of Teignmouth all the way round to the south coast of Cornwall and just beginning to venture up to the north coast. And I want to find out more about the common dolphins. I think possibly because they are a little bit overlooked, perhaps because they are so common, we don't really know much about their specific behaviours, and I think that makes them really vulnerable, despite the fact that there are a lot of them. So in 2024, I set up Dolphin Zone Community Interest Company, and its primary aim is a project which you can see on the screen here. Who's that dolphin? Exploring the social lives of common dolphins. I will be giving you other ways to get in touch, but just while I've got this photo from Marine Discovery, which is one of my headline photos, traditionally, common dolphins haven't really been the subject of much photo ID. There are, I think, about 8 catalogues going on globally at the moment, which, when you consider that there are 6 million common dolphins, means that we really don't really know much about them individually, unlike bottlenose, killer whales and humpbacks. But technology has fortunately caught up with our ambitions to a degree, and you can see on this that this dolphin not only has a trailing edge indentation on her dorsal. I don't know if the cursor's coming across, Bex, but I'm kind of wiggling it at the dorsal. It is good. But the dolphin also has pigmentation here in its dorsal fin, and these pigmentation patterns along the side, I hypothesize, are individual and or genetically inherited. And the pigmentation patterns are actually stable across time. So now nearly everybody has a good quality camera in their phone. It means that I can really make the most of all the sightings that other people are getting in all the places that I can't quite reach with one pair of eyes and one pair of legs. So I'm just going to go forward. So I think my button is in the wrong place. Oh, it was all going so well, wasn't it? There we go. So this is what I'm aiming for. This is just the very first couple of pages of the catalogue. Just wanted you to see that if you are kind enough to contribute data, this is where it's likely to end up. So this is Charles Darfin. And Charles Darfin has got the longest gap between sightings. It's been seen in Falmouth and Mounts Bay, 10 years apart. I think that's fairly persuasive that Charles Darfin is here a lot. And although we don't usually include infants in our photo ID, I couldn't resist this one because I think that Phantom, I don't know if you can see her markings here, Phantom is really pale. So I suspect that that marking will stay stable over time. So I'm hoping that at some point we will re-see Phantom. I'm just letting it share through. It seems to take a long time to, there we go. So data sources are multiple, actually. And over the last few years, I've been building up a huge array of data streams, which is exactly what I need. So first of all is my own fieldwork. Secondly, is the data from the strandings networks. I volunteer for Devon Marine Strandings Network, and Cornwall have kindly offered to share their photos with me, as have British Divers. So thanks, Bex and Dan. It means that we potentially could match a live or dead stranding to a live photo and know more about that dolphin's history, and the possibilities there are immense. We have data from researchers and skippers. As all the skippers know, I'm a firm believer that they know far more about dolphins than I will ever know because they're with them all the time. So a lot of my research questions are actually formulated from skippers' observations. And this is where a lot of you, I'm hoping, will come in and give us a hand. This is Tracy Beaker. We need citizen science photos. I have an insatiable appetite for as many photos and videos of dolphins as you can send me. Just a little lag while the screen changes, just bear with. It wants me to do it twice. There we go. So what can we learn from photo identification? Who lives here? What do they do here? And what relationships do they have here? Now, these are questions that are really well evidenced in killer whale populations and in some bottlenose populations, but we don't know whether our dolphins here are resident, transient, or seasonal. We know they're calving here, but we don't know whether this is a very important calving ground, and we don't know how long they stay here. And we don't know what relationships they have. Do they live in family groups like killer whales? Do they live in male alliances like bottlenose dolphins? And this information is really essential to help us understand the individual social structure, which ultimately is going to mean that they can stay healthy and free to express their natural behaviours. So we've already had a mention of Happy Whale tonight. Happy Whale also does dolphins, I'm pleased to say. We are currently working with the people at Happy Whale to create a data set for this stretch. This is where I've uploaded for so far. But I think it might take a few years to train the machine to pick up the dolphins. So we're simultaneously running a visual match project, and I've got a brilliant team of volunteers who are helping me with this. Come on. They are looking through several hundred and approaching thousands of photographs of dolphins. There we go. It's gone forwards again. Bex, is this me or is this a lag?
I think it's just IT gremlins tonight. They wait for me when I'm on Teams.
Okay, I'm on the next one. I'm trying to change the screen 30 seconds before I'm going to want to change the screen. So this is one of my favorite dolphins. This is dolphin number 101 in the catalogue. And as you can see, Flappy Fin is here with AK Wildlife Cruises in Falmouth. Flappy Fin is here with Marine Discovery. Cornwall Wildlife Trust uploaded a video of the Mevagissey to Foy ferry, and somebody sent it to me saying, is this Flappy Fin? And Rupert, the lone kayaker, also had an encounter with a dolphin who may or may not be Flappy Fin in Berry Head. Now, the reason that these two are still down as "Are you Flappy Fin?" is because in our photo ID protocol, we do have to have at least 2 of us examining it and agreeing that this is definitely flappy fin. So what photos and videos do we need? Any of them. I'm really happy for people to just dump them at me. If I can't use them, I won't, but I have an endless appetite, as I said, to go through photos and videos. There's a special focus on very identifiable individuals, but all of them are important. I will ask your time, date, and location. Sorry, I've got a cat interfering now. You can see a random paw going across me, that's the cat. So I will ask your time, date, and location. I will always be interested in any additional observations you have. And this is how you get through to Dolphin Zone. I'm on Facebook as Dolphin Zone, and on the Dolphin Zone website are several different ways of contacting us. And this is probably going to break the IT, Bex, because I have got a 2-second video. I'm going to go for it. Did it play? So this is the dream. That's River Phoenix. And then somebody sent me a photo. Oh, I've gone back. Somebody sent me a photo of a dolphin in January that I recognised, and I was able to say, that's River Phoenix. I'm not able to show you now, though, according to the website. So River Phoenix is now on 6 sightings, which I'm absolutely chuffed about. And the more people who send us photos and videos, the more moments we and hopefully other people will get in which we can say, we know that dolphin, he lives here, she lives here, and we need to protect them more. And as a special little incentive for those of you who have got an imagination, which I've now completely run out of, if you give me a new dolphin for my catalogue, you get to name them. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I was going to say, I was wondering when you were going to run out of fin puns and dolphin puns, because I think you've done pretty well.
Yeah, completely done. Utterly and utterly
I think there are a
exhausted.
few more common dolphin than there are possible puns on the word
I
fin.
think so.
Just 1 or 2. Yeah, it's a brave
Thank you.
undertaking. Okay, do remember, guys, if you've got any questions, be popping them in the chat and we can come to them at the end. We also got a chance really to unmute and ask them, but it's good to be able to see them as they're coming up. Right, so last but maybe least is me. I'm just going to do a quick roundup of the year's cetacean stranding. So give me a second. Hopefully. Yeah, everything's in slow mode today. How's that looking?
Yeah, that's good. That.
Okay, great. So this is I oversee the Marine Strandings Network for the Wildlife Trust, but a great deal of this owes itself to Anthea, who's data officer for the Strandings Network and does all the quality assurance and data input and a lot of the data crunching. And I know she's online somewhere, but yeah, big shout out to Anthea, who does a lot of hard work on this. Okay, so a little bit of a cautionary point. It is a bit of a shame to finish on dead cetaceans. We much prefer to see the ones that are swimming around in the oceans. And this does have photographs which might be distressing to some people. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so 2025, we were down actually on cetacean stranding, so that maybe that's good news. You can see that 2024 was a pretty big year. We had 245 cetaceans reported to the network, whereas we were down over 100 this year, 2025. And really that's due to our main species that's reported to us are common dolphins. You can see it was a big year last year for common dolphins at 170, for 2024, 175, 91 last year. The 2 species that are reported most to us are common dolphins, number 1, and harbour porpoise, number 2. Actually, common dolphins number 2, harbour porpoise number 3. I've also included just in these graphs to show you is our 3 top species. And you can see that actually the species that's reported to us most are grey seals. And why I've put this graph in is we've been talking a lot about SWME, is that we've seen this real change over the last decade in the sort of species we're seeing in our seas. And you can see this reflected a little bit in the strandings data, with some species sort of declining and some going up. So you can see that both grey seals and common dolphins have had a real step up around the sort of 2013 to 2015 mark. And I think that you can't really explain that just by population increase. It's animals sort of moving into those inshore waters that Duncan was talking about for both of those. And just to cheat and put in some live data, this is from our Sequest data, and you can see it's very similar. Our top 3 species are again grey seals, common dolphins, and harbour porpoises. And sort of similar patterns, just that we're sort of seeing sort of relatively similar numbers of dolphins and harbour porpoises. What is interesting is in the last few years, the sightings of common dolphins have actually overtaken harbour porpoise. And before 2015, there was very little chance of seeing harbour porpoises on the surveys that we run for Sequest. I think the probability averages out at like 2.8%. After 2015, they're up to one of our most commonly seen species. So you've got like a 28% chance of seeing a common dolphin on a survey. If we look at cetacean strandings by month, so we've got the average in there in dark blue, and then yes, dark blue is the average, and then dark green, sorry, those 2 colours came out really similar when I copied them over, is the 2025, and you can see that we were a bit down in terms of February and March compared to what is usual, but otherwise it sort of follows the normal trend. Again, in the last 10 years, we do get this peak in the summer that we didn't used to get, and I think that's due to this presence of common dolphins more in our inshore waters. So I've got some notable cases from 2025. One of the interesting things that happened, we had a Risso's dolphin that's dead stranded down at Pras Sands, and that's already at Porthcurris, so we had a big help there from the dive centre in retrieving that one. But it was noticed that it had these, you can see either side of the anal slit there, these mammary slits, which we would expect from a female, but actually on PM it was found to be a male. And Anthony has done a lot of trawling back through the photo data and has found there's quite a few instances of these male Risso's dolphins which have mammary slits, or what we call pseudo-mammary slits. So kind of features of what you'd normally expect in a female cetacean. Anyway, herself and a few others, including James Barnett, are working on a paper about that at the moment. So watch this space. They may have more to report for you next year. Really sadly, we had a young fin whale that stranded over Pentuan, and this was a calf, really caused quite a stir, live stranded, and it was attended all day by volunteers from British Divers Marine Life Rescue, and because there was no sign of the female and this animal was in distress, it had to be euthanized, sadly. Beautiful. And I did attend so that the people, so we could record it for strandings with this one. This one did as well, with an amazing feat of cooperation, go off for post-mortem. And the results showed, yes, she was showing some signs of sort of hunger from maternal separation, which was what we first thought, maybe somehow got split up from the mother. But also James found there were signs of other indications, perhaps some underlying health issues with the animal, high parasite burden, maybe some indications of a heart problem. So that might have contributed to that. We used to see more common instances of bottlenose dolphin attack on porpoises strandings around the coast, but we had one last year. So this is a little male harbour porpoise in April, and you can clearly see sort of rake marks in the tail there, and sort of received a pounding from bottlenose dolphins. And then this stranding made the headlines because it was a pregnant harbour porpoise. In terms of she was very pregnant, and I know that the PM team, they all of them were quite upset really by that, just because it was such a late stage of pregnancy. It really sort of it touched all of them. So we did do some press on that, and actually got some of the fishers to contribute to that as well, because they're saying they are trying their best to reduce bycatch, but they're not getting an awful lot of support really from the government on this. with what they would like to do in terms of bycatch mitigation. Hopefully we'll be seeing more movement, as Maya was saying, over the next few years, and more progress on that. If we have a look at cetacean bycatch cases, Jess alluded to this later, it is still a large area of concern. We tend to use the official data where we are only we're 99% confidence in the indications of bycatch. And when you look at that, it averages about 24% of all cetaceans, slightly higher for common dolphins, that percentage. So that's post-mortem data, and also our BEEP project, which looks at the external data. So there's the animals that can't go off for post-mortem, because you can only do a relatively small proportion of animals for post-mortem, but we can assess them externally for signs of bycatch. So we do get quite a few each year, and because the number of cetacean strandings have gone up, because we are getting more common dolphins inshore, we are also getting more strandings. The average of strandings over the last 10 years for cetaceans is over 200 a year, just over, whereas the decade before it was about 100 a year. So the actual number of those showing bycatch has gone up because the proportion has stayed the same. So it's staying about a quarter, but obviously that equates into more animals. So that's just sort of looking at just at common dolphin bycatch, because like I said, they are the major segment of our strandings data really for the last 10 years. And one interesting thing in the data to leave you with is I've just been having a quick explore of this from different aspects, and what we found is the average length of our common dolphins has decreased, and that's a statistically significant thing in the data. It's probably due to more young animals being around. So this would support Duncan's theory that the population has kind of shifted further north, bringing maybe more breeding females and their young. So we've sort of seen this decline in size, but it's not because they've actually shrunk, it's just because there's more young animals in our data these days. Okay, that was a bit of a rattle through, but I didn't want us to take us on too late. So a big thank you to all our amazing volunteers that go out in all weathers, and we'll document these animals and make sure that they're not being forgotten. And there are some that put a lot more effort, a lot of effort into this. And then we've got our PM team that get them back and work with James to try and find out cause of death, that do, negotiate bringing a dolphin from the far end of Crantop Beach to the car park and then getting it down to Helston. It's a phenomenal feat. We also have our amazing hotline coordinator team that are on the end of the phone and give up their time every week to coordinate volunteers to go out and record those. So it's an incredible team effort, and it's all voluntary apart from myself and Anthea. So just a big shout out to all of those people. So I'll finish there and stop sharing if I can. But big thank you to all of our speakers tonight. It would be great to see if there's any questions there. I was just seeing, has anybody picked up any in the chat? We've got one for Briar. Are there many strandings as a result of boat strike? I think we get quite a few trauma cases. It's not always clear what might have happened there. I don't know if Anthea's about. She might be able to comment on that more accurately than me, if she's feeling brave. She may be off having a glass of wine. Well, I'll come back to that one. Got Keith. It's a bit of any evidence that fishers will take the lungs out of a bycatch cetacean so that the carcass will sink? I know a few years ago we had some occasions where animals had slicing injuries, and it was thought maybe that does help make them sink. I haven't heard about the lungs theory, and we haven't really seen those slicings in recent carcasses. So I don't know about that one, I'm afraid. And then any other questions? We did have one about Zoe, Francesco. I think you've answered that in the chat though, about seal acoustics.
Yeah, I haven't touched on it, but our colleagues at Celtic Sea Power have also been looking at detecting seal vocalizations in the data. They've been doing this, testing it on recordings closer to Falmouth, closer to the shore, but they're developing a machine learning algorithm that will be able to apply to this too, and more generally make available to people, yeah, to look at seal vocalizations as well.
That's really exciting.
Mm.
Do love acoustics. It's a really fascinating field. Okay, well, unless I've skipped over one and missed one, I can't see any more questions. Brian's just saying interested in the maybe how you undertake acoustic monitoring of baleen whales. But I think you said there are the algorithms, aren't you? You're just still analysing that data at the moment.
Yes, we haven't quite got to them yet, but we will. There are obviously general ways of detecting vocalizations in the kind of frequency range that you'd expect for a whale. It won't tell you what whale it is, but by large, it can tell you which bits of your sound recording has a lot of energy in that frequency range. And so you can then go and look at what that might be if it is indeed a whale that's vocalizing. I was hoping to find somewhere, if anyone knows of machine learning or other algorithms that are specific to minkies and fin whales. I haven't found any yet, but would be very, very useful because, I mean, yeah, it's just a phenomenal amount of broadband noise data that we have because it's 15-minute every half hour for months and months. So there's a lot to do with it. And if anyone had anything like that, I'd be very happy to talk about it.
Well, that's maybe we can get that that shout
Mhm.
out there. There's a few people online I know that have quite knowledgeable, so they may have some insights on that one.
Mm.
I've got a question.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Oh no, sorry. I was just seeing there was another question about piling or offshore wind is actually affecting cetaceans. Um, Offshore, so in this case, in the Celtic Sea, the development will mostly be about floating offshore wind, which we don't have as much of. Um, there is some evidence that the construction of the wind farm temporarily displaces some cetaceans in other places. Long term, you are right, there is limited evidence that the cetaceans really are impacted by the noise because the noise levels decrease a lot after something is after the wind farm is created. But these structures also act as attractants of other fish. They change a bit the general distribution of animals and processes, ecological processes. So perhaps there are other ways that cetaceans and other predators ch change their behavior or distribution in relation to it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but it's interesting to see what that could mean for their distribution and feeding areas and things like this, which is interesting to keep an eye on too, I guess.
Thanks for that. I've just seen one. There's a different question from Colin, who's just saying, "Are you seeing an increase in seals killing dolphins?" I don't think we've had any cases that look suspicious for seal predation on dolphins. Perhaps one that was a seal but it's still kind of uncertain. It's really, really hard to pick up these things. Male pinnipeds across different species are known to predate on a whole range of different prey. So it's not unusual to see this kind of more wide predation from pinnipeds. Personally, I don't think there's been many cases on dolphins. They've been known to predate on porpoises and other seals. But they're very, very rare. They think there may only be a few individual male seals that are actually doing that sort of behavior. So it's again, it's one of those things that we'll find out more about. Brian's just said we had a report here of a seal attacking a dolphin, but it turned out to be a sunfish. I saw, yeah, people getting overexcited a bit, maybe. Anyway, okay, I think that might be it. I just want to extend a very big thank you to all of our guest speakers tonight for coming along and telling us about this. Has been a fascinating evening. Thank you all for coming and listening as well. This will all be feeding into the SWME Southwest Marine Ecosystems Conference, which is happening next week. I think Bob's online. So I'm sure some of you will be going along to that, and we'll be putting these webinars are all going onto the SWME YouTube channel as well. So if you want to find out about seals, seabirds, the benthos fish, or any of the other amazing webinars that have been happening, they are there on the YouTube channel. Well, I shall be looking forward to seeing some of you around and about on Sequest and Strandings, and maybe at conferences in the future. But have a lovely evening. Good night.